They'd tried to separate two kittens that morning. One of them stopped eating completely. This is the story of two brothers who were never supposed to need each other this much. But what happened when the shelter pulled them apart, nobody saw coming. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. The shelter called them a bonded pair, but nobody really knew what that meant until they tried to test it. It sounded like a simple label on a piece of paper, the kind shelters write all the time. Nobody expected it to mean quite this much. Two kittens arrived at the rescue within the same week. One was orange and white, barely 4 weeks old, found alone behind a grocery store. The other was black and white, slightly older, surrendered by a family who could no longer keep him. They had different mothers, different histories, different starts, but the moment a volunteer placed them in the same transport crate, something happened that nobody expected. The orange kitten pressed himself into the black and white kitten's side and refused to move. Not for food, not for water, not even when a volunteer gently tried to separate them for a routine health check. The orange kitten had arrived in worse shape than anyone realized at first. He was dehydrated, underweight, and clearly hadn't eaten in days before he was found. The black and white kitten, by contrast, was healthy, confident, and noticeably calm for an animal who had just lost his home. Staff expected the healthy one to need time to adjust and the weak one to need the most care. What they didn't expect was for the stronger kitten to take on a role nobody asked him to take. The black and white kitten, the older of the two, simply curled his body around the smaller one and stayed still. He didn't hiss, he didn't fight, he just became a wall between his crate mate and the rest of the world. The shelter staff started calling them the brothers, even though paperwork listed them as unrelated. Genetically, they had nothing in common, but something had already decided otherwise. For the first 2 weeks, they were inseparable in the literal sense. Staff couldn't get one without the other following immediately, climbing, crying, refusing to settle. A volunteer named Karen had seen plenty of kittens come and go. She had never seen anything quite like this. "He's not just attached," she said, "he's anchored to him." Word started to spread in the shelter that these two might need to be adopted together or not at all. That's where the real test came. A family came in looking for a single kitten. They wanted only the orange one, drawn to his bright color and playful energy. Staff explained gently that he came as a pair. The family hesitated, then said they would think about it. For the rest of that day, the shelter staff couldn't stop thinking about what almost happened. If that family had insisted, if the rules had been different, these two would have gone their separate ways without anyone ever knowing what that would cost them. Karen kept replaying the moment in her head, the image of the black and white kitten pacing the front of his kennel every time a stranger walked past, watching to see if today was the day. 2 days later, in what staff described as a routine separation for vaccinations, the kittens were placed in different rooms for less than 20 minutes. The orange kitten cried without stopping the entire time. The black and white kitten pressed himself against the door of his room until his paws were raw from scratching at it. When staff brought him back, he checked the orange kitten over almost frantically, sniffing every inch of him like he was making sure nothing had changed. But the moment that really shook the shelter happened the next morning. The orange kitten refused his food bowl entirely. He sat beside it, untouched, for almost 6 hours. Staff tried wet food, they tried warming it, they tried hand feeding. Nothing worked. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of what these two would teach everyone watching. It was only when they placed his bowl directly beside the black and white kitten's bowl that something shifted. The orange kitten looked at his brother eating calmly beside him and slowly, hesitantly started to eat too. Karen documented it in his file with a single line, "Will not eat without him present." That single sentence changed the shelter's entire plan. No one wrote a rule like that for a kitten without a reason, and everyone who read that file understood exactly what it meant going forward. If this story is touching your heart even a little, this is exactly the kind of update we love sharing more of. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how their story unfolds. The family that originally wanted only the orange kitten came back a few days later. This time, they asked a different question. What if we took both? Staff didn't hesitate. The adoption was approved that same afternoon. And then, at exactly the moment they were placed together in their new carrier for the ride home, everything changed. The black and white kitten settled immediately, wrapping himself around his brother the way he always did. The orange kitten, for the first time in days, fell completely asleep. The new family had no idea what they were walking into. What they discovered over the following weeks would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The two kittens grew side by side, almost never more than a few feet apart. They ate together, they slept curled into each other in the same bed every single night, regardless of how much space they had. They climbed the same cat tree and somehow always ended up tangled in the same spot, one resting his head on the other's back. When the family adopted a second cat tree, thinking they'd spread out, the kittens simply chose to share one anyway. Even feeding time became a small ritual of its own. The orange kitten, the one who had once refused to eat alone, would now wait by his bowl until his brother arrived, almost as if old habits never fully disappeared. The black and white kitten, in turn, would seem to understand exactly what that pause meant and would walk over without being called every single time. Visitors would often comment on how unusual it was. Most cats, even from the same litter, eventually drift toward independence. These two never did. The family started noticing small things. If the orange kitten left the room, the black and white one would pause whatever he was doing and watch the doorway until he returned. If a vacuum turned on, they would both run, but always to the same hiding spot, always together. One evening, the family's young daughter accidentally shut a door between the two rooms where each kitten happened to be resting. Within seconds, both kittens were at the door, one scratching from each side, crying in a way the family had never heard before. It lasted only a moment before the door was opened again, but it was enough to remind everyone in that house exactly what they were caring for. From that moment on, they were never apart, not for more than a few minutes at a time. People online have called it loyalty. Others have called it instinct, two scared animals finding safety in proximity. Maybe it's both. What we do know is that whatever this bond is, it was strong enough to make a shelter rewrite its adoption rules, strong enough to make a kitten stop eating, and strong enough to make a family change their entire plan in a single afternoon. Because some stories don't need a blood relation to make sense. Sometimes family is simply the one being you refuse to eat without. Do you think bonds like this come from shared trauma, or is it something deeper that we still don't fully understand? Tell me in the comments.